Hi, and welcome to Philosophy with Phil. My name is Phil Cohen, and this is the third instalment, or the third Parshah that I'm recording about, and it's the Parshah of Parah. Now, there's a different video on Facebook. I'm uploading this video onto YouTube, and these videos have to be a bit shorter, so I'm going to truncate what I was going to say just a little bit to try and squeeze it in. Parah deals with the laws of the red heifer, the red cow, whose ashes it was burnt, and the ashes were used as in part of a purification ritual in the temple. And Parah, it comes from the Sedra, the Parshah is called Chukas, and the Parshah is and the laws of the red heifer are described as being a chok, as being a law that is beyond human rationale. So today I want to talk about what the limits are on human knowledge and human rational thought, and how that plays a part in Jewish thinking. In the other video, I talk a bit about Plato and Plato's cave, because Plato was very much a rationalist. He believed in the supremacy of human logic, and you can read, if you look at the Republic, but Plato's one of Plato's best known works. And towards the end of the 7th chapter, he talks about a cave, and as I say, I won't go into too much detail about that, but you can look that up hopefully yourself. Let me give you an example of how the Torah deals with human logic. There's a Mishnah in the Masechta, the tractate of Zvachim. It's in the third Mishnah of the 8th Perek, the 8th chapter. Which talks about what happens if two sacrifices get muddled up. So let me explain. You have one sacrifice that has very specific, very tight rules associated with it, and another one which has more relaxed, more relaxed rules regarding it. So if those two sacrifices get muddled up, what do you do? Now, Reb Shimon says, logically one would have thought, human logic says, well, let's just apply the tight rules to both of the animals, both of the sacrifices, and that way we know we've covered all our bases. We're covered for both sacrifices. But that's going by human logic. The Chachamim, the sages, counter him and say the problem is we have a Torah principle. And the Torah principle is Ein Mavin Kodshim Lebeis HaPasul. We don't unnecessarily put sacrifices we don't unnecessarily put strictures on sacrifices. And that rule trumps the human logic, if you like, the rational thought. So we can see from that one example, and it's a principle we have right across Torah, where even though we might have thought one thing, if there's a Torah principle, Torah overrides human logic. There is one time that you might think, there is one occasion where human logic does come into play in logical derivation of Jewish law. And it's an unfortunate case which has happened in Jewish history, that is quoted in the Gemara in Pesachim, in the Talmud in Pesachim, page Chav Hey 25 on the first daf of 25a. And it's the principle, and it's the situation of Yahari Ve'al Ya'avor. We have a situation where, as I say, unfortunately, one individual is pointing to a Jew and saying, kill the third person. What should that person do? Should they allow themselves to be killed rather than kill somebody else? Or do they kill the other person and spare themselves? Ravin, quoting Rabbi Yochanan, says, no, we can't allow him to kill the other person, because who's to say whose blood is more important than the other? In other words, what Ravin is doing is applying a human logic to this situation, and saying that because we can't logically prioritize one individual over another, therefore we have to let it stand, and unfortunately the first person has to let themselves be killed. But is this actually a case of human logic overriding Torah principles, or is it not? I don't think it is, and here's why. In Jewish law, we're not allowed, if something is wrong, we're not allowed to do it. It doesn't matter what the consequences are of that. So, for example, theft. We're not allowed to steal from someone. Doesn't matter if it's a penny, a pound, £200. Fraud is fraud, theft is theft. In fact, in the Torah Parshah of Kedoshim, chapter 19 of Leviticus, of Vayikra, it talks about not cursing the deaf. Don't curse a deaf person. Why? They can't hear you, surely it's not a problem. No, cursing people is wrong, and so it doesn't matter. We also look at, the Torah law looks at the management of criminals, people that are condemned to death, and we do have the death penalty under very, very limited circumstances. So how do we treat those criminals? They've done something, so they may have done a heinous crime, and yet they're treated with a great deal of respect. So something is right or wrong regardless of the consequences, and this poor individual that's put in that circumstance isn't allowed to kill. We're not allowed to kill. So it doesn't matter whether or not he himself is going to be killed or not. He's not allowed to kill, and that makes it wrong. So therefore he must be allowed himself to be killed. So we can see that there is in fact a Torah principle that is in play here, and it's not just human logic that takes into account. What about human logic in application of law and human perception? Well, there's a lovely idea that about an esrog. An esrog is one of the 4 species that's brought on the festival of Tabernacles, on the festival of Sukkot. And it's called, we're told to take a fruit from the Pri-Eitz Hadar, from a beautiful tree. So you could say, well, I think this particular fruit is beautiful. So we each have different preferences for the fruits that we have. And we may even think that a particular style or type of esrog may be better looking than another. But nonetheless, no, we disregard our personal thoughts, our personal rational thoughts, and we apply halacha. And the Gemara and the codes of Jewish law have clear explanations as to what is considered to be beautiful and what is not. So, where are we? I've already told you about talked about the spinning sword, and how human logic can sometimes get confused, and how at the gates of the Garden of Eden, when Adam and Eve were banished from the garden, God put out a spinning sword, just to show you how human logic is twisted, according to Rab Nachman, and how often the opposite of what we think true is actually the Torah case. Thank you for watching once again, and hoping you'll watch the Chodesh video, and hopefully there'll be some more to come in the build up to Pesach, and perhaps even Shavuos, and from then on in. Bye now, and Shabbat Shalom.